Why can't I don't need it. I'm not going to just go. Hello. We are officially live. 10 seconds rolling in. We're going to give everybody a few minutes to join us in the conversation. So if you've ever, it is National Go All In Day. So I am so excited to have you here, Tammy. We're going to talk about going all in. So we're going to keep rolling. Oh, I just delete. Yeah. So welcome to LinkedIn Live. We are glad you are here. If you are, oops, wait, wrong comment banners one. Welcome to LinkedIn Live. We're glad you're here. Cannot wait to chat with everybody. So how's life up near you? So what's the weather like? I know the nation's we're basically apparently frying eggs in our nation. So
yeah, well, Minnesota is no different. It will be 98 and humid today. So it's a good day to be in a pool, a good day to be in front of an air conditioner, pretty much anywhere but outside.
Just sitting there like this. Yeah. What is the movie? What movie is that with Julia? I think it's Runaway Bride, where she's just like standing in front of the fan.
Yes. Perfect.
Yeah. So this is absolutely perfect. So I'm going to we're going to just, so I'm updating things. If you haven't connected with Tammy Olson, please be sure to do so on LinkedIn. No, she is not related to the Olson twins, unless that I know of.
No, I'm not.
Okay. So we're just going to have some fun talking about it. So if you are a job seeker or just joining us in the chat, be sure to drop in the comments what is going on with your world, or if you want to ask. If not, we're just going to kind of dive in and get started. Tammy and I are just going to have a bold conversation of what it's like to go all in. So this will be a conversation to reference later. So if you're listening to the recording, welcome to a behind the scenes look at what Tammy and my conversations look like morning, noon, and night. In that regard, but I'm going to give Tammy a chance to kind of take the stage and introduce herself. So we connected through some wonderful career searching groups back in the pandemic. We have stayed in touch, grown in a relationship, and I am so excited for her to share what she does, how she does it, and why, if you don't have her as part of your team, you should. And that can be team in terms of full-time capacity, or team in terms of, hiring her as a partner in your process to really level up. So Tammy, the stage is yours. Tell us a little bit about what you do and why you love what you do.
So my banner there is business operations strategist. Sounds very, vague. Really, I work with small business owners who are a little stressed out and out of control in their business. Their business is running them. And the difference, or the gap that I fulfill for them is could be a solopreneur. It could be a business owner who has some, frontline staff, but there's really no business function. There's nothing that's actually kind of helping the business run on its own. So whether that is automation, whether that's integration with existing tools, sometimes business owners can be really successful. I've seen it happen with an Excel spreadsheet, their phone, a Calendly link, and away they go. But eventually those things break down and there needs to be some other level of foundation put into place. And so I love working with visionary business owners who are having all the ideas, but are a little light on execution, because I can help get their projects done.
Oh, I absolutely love the way you just said that you can help their projects get done, period. And I think that's one of the things that we all need help. So if you would like help getting your project done, that's a key thing, right? If you have that extra person in your corner championing you on. And I have to tell you, having attended some of Tammy's sessions as a business operations strategist, I should say, she does an incredible job packing you full of resources and time management hacks, not your basic, here's how to use a planner, but really leveling you up, because you wouldn't be where you are if you didn't already know some of the fundamentals. But now it's just kind of harnessing those and having that accountability person in your corner. So let's talk about going all in, because you weren't always an entrepreneur. So what did that look like on National Go All In Day?
I was not always an entrepreneur, and I didn't think that I ever wanted to be. Honestly, I had decades in corporate. I had a good career path. I was happy in my work. I had great teams, great clients, all the things, but something started to surface for me as I started working with some folks in my social network. I, had small business owners that I knew socially, and we'd be talking to, invariably you'd get around to some challenge they were having in their business. And I got so fired up being able to help them think about solving that challenge in a different way, or had they thought about this, or what tool could work, or. And as I started doing that work, I had, people saying, oh, that was so helpful. I loved, we would just do this informal brainstorming. We'd talk about things. I'd share what I knew. And they're like, could you help me with that? Could I hire you? It started out that basically, it was really, can I hire you? And so eventually that side hustle became so much more compelling to me than my day job, as much as I loved my day job, that certain opportunities presented themselves. And I decided to I felt that the growth in my business was limited to the fact that I didn't have more time. So I thought that felt like a really good time to step out of corporate and go all in on myself. And I did go all in on myself. That was it. I left corporate and started doing this work full time.
And I like that idea, right? So sometimes we have to go all in on ourselves, right? We really have to take that leap of faith and go, this part of me says I need to give this a whirl. This part of my energy or my heart is really feeling connected to this specific part of your business, right? And I think I love how you said, it's not that I didn't like my day job. It's that something started pulling me in a different direction where you were excited, right? And you had the blessing from your previous team. Okay, go try it. Let's see what happens, because you're leaving on good terms. And Tammy and I talk a lot about, and I guess we share this passion of not burning the rungs of the ladder.
No, it's really important. My network is everything to me in terms of how they've supported me in the past. They're my go-to in the future. And it's a very small world. It's a small world, period. But certainly when you're in an industry, the last thing you need to do is again, burn the bridges when you leave. You don't know when you're going to need those people again. And it's not really in my nature to be that way. Anyway, I had no reason, not to leave on good terms. But even, we've had those relationships. I think anybody who's a human and an adult has had some relationships that maybe they weren't ideal, but it always is the, mature approach to say, well, I'm going to leave this in as good a place as I possibly can and just move on down the road. I don't have to break this person or organization in the process.
Yeah. And I like that you said that. I think that's one of the things that's so pivotal, that we don't want to burn bridges, even for those organizations that maybe it didn't work out with. Maybe we worked with them and it wasn't what either of us expected, or it wasn't what one party expected, but you don't want to burn the bridge, right? Talking sour about those organizations doesn't do anybody any good, or them talking sour about you, right? We talk about these ideas that you're not just crossing bridges in your journey of professionalism, right? You're also growing, you're flourishing, and you know what? It might not be now, but it might be 5 years from now, you come back to work together, or you might be you might cross paths again in another environment. And to your point, going all in doesn't mean pulling up your mallet or your Thor hammer and smashing everything in your path to get there. I'm sure as we all would love to have the adorable Thor, not adorable, I shouldn't say that, hammer and the power of that lovely character. But I guess I'm curious, because we've talked about this too. So if and when you get to that time when you're being pulled in a different direction, what do you think that would look like? Or what do you think would pull you in a different direction?
First I had to be open to the pull. I think you have to spend a little bit of time in the being. We do a lot of doing in our work. So whether we're working for ourselves or working for someone else, there's all this doing, and we get into a habit of it. And so what I started to notice, I just got curious. I'm like, why does this, this other thing feel so much more compelling than my day job, is what I'll call it, which was actually in an industry doing the work that I had wanted to do for a very long time. I created that. I was so thrilled to be there. And it was for me, there were some very specific hallmarks that said, well, this is why this is calling you. And it was having a more direct impact. I was working with real people who really, I felt like I was really serving them in a way that working as an organization, I didn't feel that connection. So I just think you have to be able to step out of the doing long enough to say, but who am I being when I'm doing this? Does this fulfill me? Does this make me feel like I'm using my best talents? And it's okay if you say, but I still just want to try something new. Like, I think sometimes we aren't given permission maybe to just try something new. If you think you would be interested in it, and then try it. I mean, you can go all in, or you can go halfway in. I mean, I'm not saying everyone needs to, quit their jobs and run wild in the streets, but if it's something that's calling to you, like, listen to that longing and listen to the discontent that's kind of pushing you somewhere else, and the longing that's pulling you, like, listen to those voices.
And I think that's something to listen, right? It's a powerful statement we all talk about, that you need to listen and you need to be in that right space. Okay. I think that's one of the things when I talk about going all in, right? And I look back to the past couple of years and looking at the pandemic hires and how the pandemic has shifted all of us. Your career life is too short not to make a good judgment call of when is a good time for you to go all in. And it's okay if it's not right now, but you're like, you know what? Is it fear that's keeping you from going all in? You're like, oh my God, is it that fear of failure? Is it imposter syndrome that is taking over your life? Or reach out to your network. Tammy and I both talk a lot about this when you're going all in, how important it is to lean on your personal board of executives, right? I was in a great conversation this morning with someone, and she was talking about how she's currently in the process of building herself her own board of directors, right? And who are you going to lean into when you get nervous of, maybe it's not the right time, or why am I being pulled in this direction? So and is that possible, the why, to pull that back to where you currently are and ask for it, right? And say, I'm interested in this. Is there a place here at this company I can do that?
100%. I love that so much, because I think sometimes we think it doesn't exist here in this place. I have to go someplace else to find it. Mm-hmm. And this takes me back to, even organizations that have great leadership development programs or formalized mentoring programs or whatever, you still have to opt in. Like, you have to say, I'm interested in that, and here's why. I was always a really aggressive, for lack of a better word, assertive. I managed up very well. So my management heard from me more than they would have necessarily asked, but I thought that not in a creepy, like, and then I went to lunch and then I went here, but I would, I was prescriptive around sharing with them what I was doing, what I was working on, and what I thought some next steps were. And I always owned that part of my journey. Yeah. So for you to say, is this something you can create in your current role? I did that. I did that before I stepped out, but I'm like, I want to try something new. And I think this is a way it can apply in this organization. And this is why the organization should want me to do this, because they will get A, B, and C out of it.
And I think that's right. So when we talk about, there's so many powerful nuggets of wisdom you just shared in there that you have to be able to communicate up, not just coach up or talk up, but you need to be able to clearly say these are my next steps that I think would help because, or so that, could we try this so that I could work on this skill, harness this energy, support this project, learn this new trade, learn an industry. Because I look back to how fortunate I was to be in certain positions with really incredible leaders and managers that to me weren't really managers. They were more people I looked to for career guidance. Right. Yeah. But then I did have some managers that were not as easy to work with. They weren't bad. They just there wasn't that complete balance. And I look at the ones I was more transparent with in terms of going, hey, this is where I see myself. Like, I would love to eventually be in a role like that in this capacity. And then those opportunities started presenting themselves. For example, working at Sylvan, I really wanted to kind of level up on the elevating other leaders in the organization and supporting. So what we call it sometimes in HR, we call it you're building the talent from within, right? Mm-hmm. You're building this retention cycle of, and I love this idea. And we have talent sitting right here, right? We have people who want to harness their abilities and grow. So have those conversations, because people don't know what they don't know. Your current supervisor might not know what you're not telling them. If you're feeling uncomfortable, then tell them, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I feel like I'm missing. Things shift, but have those kind, honest conversations. Don't come in blazing. I think you do a beautiful job, Tammy, of having a nice art to your position of when you present the information. And not being like straight up, this is not what I wanted. This is not what we talked about. So give me what I want, Yeah. So in any regard.
I think too, there is sometimes it happens in, I would say, more in a, corporate employment type of role than in a business, but it can certainly afflict business owners too. But certainly you think, oh, I'm just doing a good job. I keep my head down. I do my work. They should notice that and promote me, recognize me, put me in a program. But FYI, keeping your head down and doing a good job is not sufficient. I mean, it's kind of table stakes at that point. Of course, you're doing a good job. You wouldn't be here if you weren't. So there's a real danger in thinking that someone is going to pick you, is going to notice your stellar work ethic and, pick you and bring you forward. It's not realistic. And I've seen it cause so much frustration and leads to disgruntled employees. And my advice to them would have been, well, did anybody know? It's our responsibility to manage our career path. It's not sadly, it's not our leadership's role to manage our career path. It's ours.
It's our responsibility, right? I mean, there are things that throw in our way. And I think that's a good point you make about, they don't know, keep your head down, do your job. Times are changing. The pandemic shifted the next generation of leaders too in the workplace. And we're seeing it at the college level where I teach. We're seeing it in student involvement in their student groups and organizations, that they're just not as involved as they used to be. They think that this is the only track they can be on. They can't spread their energies or their capacity or skills and don't want to share them. They want to stay in this lane, in this path, and not go all in with the whole experience. Mm-hmm. It's interesting what you say about if you're standing there and you're just expecting people to give you feedback.
Well, if you're expecting to get feedback, I got news for you. You're going to get the feedback you don't want to hear. Like if you're sitting there waiting for someone to tell you something, it's probably going to be the stuff you wish you weren't hearing. So yeah, that's not.
And I also go, let people know how you like to be provided feedback. Hey, I'm a direct feedback person. If you don't like what I'm doing, tell me what I'm doing wrong and then help me fix it. Don't just go, well, I don't like it. Well, what don't you like? Especially if you're, you have the younger experience on the team, not younger. You might just have less experience because there's a lot of age changing right now of who's reporting to who, right? And when we look at that, let them know how you need feedback. I mean, sometimes I always laugh at, because I've told someone, and I know you know this about me, but if I come to you with a question, that means I've already exhausted my resources on how to solve it, because I've called people, I've researched things, I've asked, I've tried it at least 3 to 4 times, and I'm stuck, right? If I go, hey, I need your help or you to lean in on this for me. It's not, so let them know. It's this whole art of what I call communicating. Like, if you like to be praised with verbal praise, great. If you could care less, not the trophy generation of here's your prize, but just that simple, hey, I appreciate what you're doing. Thanks. Or being noticed, let your manager know. Let the leader in your organization who you're reporting to know, because if you're that manager right now and someone has told you that, take that to heart and then reciprocate that for them, right? And if you haven't been asked that, ask your employees.
It's so valuable. We would go through one of our leadership iterations, literally ask the question. It was a Gallup program, and it asked, how do you want to receive feedback? And it was so hard for me because I had an employee who was amazing. Like, she was so good, but I couldn't get her out in front of anybody to save her, to save her life. Like, she literally said, just send me a thank you note. That's fine. I'm like, but that's not enough. Like, I was so hung up on what I thought she should get. Like, it was very difficult for me as her manager to not just want to shout it from the rooftops and just send her a quiet, a handwritten thank you note and whatever. Like, because I wanted, to do this because I thought that'd be so valuable. So yes, you do have to ask, because she had experiences where people had like brought her out on stage and said, and here's remember, and she's done a great job for you. And she's like, I just wanted to die. Like, I just wanted to fall through the floor. And I'm like, what? Get me on stage. I'll take all the, because that's apparently I like a lot of clapping. I don't know. I'm not shy, I guess.
Not a big deal.
About that.
Hand me a mic. I don't mind. It doesn't bother me at all. At all. No. Yeah. When they handed my dad, I know I'm my father's daughter, because when they handed him a megaphone, God help the world. My mom's like, whoever bought your father that at work was not a good thing. But on the same token, going all in also means going all in with your communication rate, but also refining it. And I love, so Tammy has credentials after her name, right? So there's letters after her name as well as in her name. Tell us, because you've got those 2 credentials, right? Those 2 certifications, the CMM and the HMCC. I mean, those take stock. So when Tammy comes to you with stuff, she also has the context, the training, and the skill set. So tell us a little bit about how those certifications have kind of impacted your ability to communicate or to have a seat at the table more so than other things.
Mm-hmm. Those certifications are meetings industry accreditations. I also have been a certified meeting professional. Sadly, I let that lapse, but the CMP is very, tactical, and CMM is strategic, applying strategic methodologies to meetings and events. HMCC is I am all in on healthcare meetings, and I know how that they need to be run, and compliance and reporting and all the things that need to happen. So for me, particularly in an industry that I was in previously in corporate meetings and events, for me, it helped me differentiate, because there is an element to meeting and event planning that is very logistical, very tactical, and you need to be able to, take care of those things. But as I progressed in my career, I was not as interested in the logistical, tactical pieces as I was the strategy meetings, business acumen that's required to make sure that those meetings fulfill a strategic initiative within an organization. That's where where those credentials came in handy for me, both in terms of teaching me how to show up in a certain way, but then also having them, out there for the world to say, like, I have at least had some actual training in how this works.
And I think that's critical to who you are as a person, so that you take that next step and go, I want to understand this, so I'm going to get the credentials to do so. I want to understand this, so I'm going to pursue the education. And if it comes with the alphabet soup after your name, as I call it, there's a reason behind that. And sometimes that's what it takes to go all in. And I want to commend Tammy for that, because she knew in order to go all in that current role, she needed to level up. It's just like in a video game. You need to level up, right? I'm not going to try to do a video game analogy beyond that, but y'all know that is not my forte, but it's the same idea, right? If you want to level up, you need to go all in and know what's important in that industry. For you, it sounds like if you want to continue managing those healthcare meetings, you need to know the compliance, right? You have to. In a world where security is key, and security is top of mind, especially with our AI tools and our Chat GPT and Jasper and all the things that we're leveraging from Siri to Alexa, we need to know. We need to know what's really important. So if I'm sitting here and you're thinking of advice, let's because I know I want to respect your time, because we talked about kind of this power conversation about just that idea of going all in, right? Yeah. What are some key things that you would recommend people really embrace if they want to go all in?
If you want to go all in, I think sometimes it can be scary to, particularly if going all in means that I have to maybe change a direction. So there's going all in and doubling down on your career and getting some additional certifications. That's good. I mean, you do that. But I think where it gets harder to go all in is when you're actually going to step off a track. You're going to do something that your family might not understand. Maybe you don't actually understand it. You want to do something different in your career, take a big step. And I think when going all in can trip us up is we feel like it's the one decision that will define us forever and for all time. And I think we need to understand that it's possible to go all in. And by all in, I mean, say, I'm going to devote my resources. I'm going to put my energy on this. I'm going to do this thing, whatever this thing is. I'm going to do it until I've completed it, or, until that it just like, it's okay to then there will be another decision point.
Sure.
I think we get afraid by thinking if we go all in that we can never go back, never make another choice, never discover that, again, we fulfilled something and grew in that moment that actually we can take elsewhere. So it's all just iterative. Even when it's all in, it's just an iteration. It's not the end of anything or the start of everything. It's just another step along the way.
And I love how you said that when you're going all in, it just means you're going all in right then and there. I think of the Sarah Blakely story where she's like, look, I had $700 in my bank account. And I just kept going to meeting after meeting, trying to explain to people that men should not be designing hosiery, period. And look at the empire she built, right? Look at because she went all in with that passion and that gusto in her whatever minimal amount she had in her savings, but that minimal was just enough to get her fired up, right?
Yes.
There's a story of the woman who also did It Cosmetics who talks about the same thing. After 50 no's from QVC, she got a yes, and now she runs part of the QVC makeup. But like, there's just these pieces of going all in doesn't necessarily mean one piece, and it doesn't have to be your end all be all. Yeah, I did that for a while, and now I've pivoted to do this. Yes, I've run my own business. That's why I have more value for you as an employee. Yes, I've done this, and this is what I bring to the table now. So it's that interesting. I love that perspective. And I think of it of that visual that's flown around. People say that this is supposed to be your story.
Right.
And then it's like,
yeah.
I should find that and use it as a post on LinkedIn sometime. It's that idea. If you've ever seen it, it's a beautiful it's a funny graphic. It's meant to be funny, but it's also authentic. This is what my path was supposed to be. And then like, it just shows you wheeling and spiraling. But I think that's exactly right. And you, again, are a model of, okay, you know what? Go all in, but be willing to pivot. Don't marry yourself to this one decision. Life changes and we grow for a reason, and different things cross your path. If you're sitting here listening to Tammy share about going all in and communicating, then reach out, have a virtual conversation with her too. So
I'd love to.
We're always for that. You, as always, are a gem to have a conversation with, and you are a model for following suit and trusting your gut and trusting that being able to discern what your heart and your passions are telling you. So I am thankful that
you have followed a path as well that is uniquely yours, Megan. So,
and what fun. And let's
talk to Megan, connect with her.
So I want to thank you all. If you're listening to live or listening to the recording, thank you for joining us today. Be sure to connect with Tammy Olson, talk about going all in, and not just on National All-In Day, but really understanding the power it has to know yourself, to know your team, and to know what's your best next step. So have a wonderful day, all.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Short, sweet, and to the point.